Or
Motion.
layman?
Motion carries, all ayes.
Melendez.
Yes.
We're anxious to hear what the crazies are doing up there.
Well, it's very nice to see all of you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, and of course the residents here. Your chambers are beautiful, by the way. I don't think I've been in here when it's been decorated like this. It's lovely. I want to start off, I have a list here. You all got this, correct? Okay, good. So, and there should be copies for those in attendance as well in the audience. I'm not going to go through every bill on here. I want you to have that to look at. I'm going to go through a few of them. But I just wanted to make a comment before I start. There was some reference to the fires that have been raging through California and the things that we may or may not have been doing prior to that. And the one thing that people don't talk about is the fact that we are not taking care of our forests the way we should be in California. What happens when you don't trim and prune the trees the way we should, the deforestation? What happens is all of that, the moisture cannot get to the ground. Okay, it doesn't drop below, which then means everything below dries out and it's like a tinderbox out there. So we have been talking to the governor about the fact that we really need to put the money forward to take care of this issue, because if we don't, we're going to continue to see fires like this and they're going to spread very, very quickly. This is a simple fix. So I just wanted to point that out because I think there are a lot of people out there that don't think about the fact that if the water can't get to the ground, it dries out. It's not just because there hasn't been enough rain. It also has to do with how we're taking care of our trees. So that being said, the good, the bad, and the ugly right here in your handy dandy cheat sheet. We'll start with the first four bills are bills that are mine. I'm a little biased on which bills I think are the best, so there you have it. There's the four best bills right at the top. Now, I just wanted you to be aware of some of the things that I was working on. Certainly my bills aren't the very best, though depends on who you ask. The second bill in question there, though, I just wanted to point out, because I'm sure you've heard a lot about it in the news with the sexual harassment and sexual assault issue that we're dealing with across the nation in every different industry that we see. The Capitol is no different. I have run a bill 4 years in a row to at least provide whistleblower protection to legislative staffers so that they could report this type of activity and not risk losing their job during the process. For 4 years in a row, that bill has been killed in the Senate. However, this year, because of what has happened, because it's received national attention and is in the spotlight, we have very good reason to believe that we will get that bill passed this year, which is great news for all of the women and some men, frankly, in the Capitol who've been kind of suffering in silence because their boss, a legislator, has been behaving poorly and they haven't been able to report it. So wish me luck, say a little prayer, whatever it is you do, that this bill passes this year. We'll move down to the other bills. SB 17, this is listed under the good bills because this has to do with drug pricing transparency. I will tell you that this bill was a big hurdle to get over. From a politics perspective, it wasn't just one party in favor and the other party against. It was kind of a mixed bag. So it did take us some time to get this through. But in the end, we did get the bill through, which means that there is some somewhat of stability for consumers with respect to their drug pricing. Some of these drugs, particularly if they are a drug you need in order to sustain your life or a chronic condition that you have, sometimes these drug prices go up at a moment's notice and you have no idea it's coming and you can't afford it. Sometimes they go down, and that's awfully hard for someone who's dealing with a disease or a chronic illness that they absolutely have to have this medication. So we did get that bill passed. It wasn't easy, but we got it passed. AB 1194 is the transparency for voters. This would require every local bond measure on the ballot to include how much voters would be taxed should that bond be passed. And I bring that up because from a local government perspective, I think that that's something that you would be interested in. It's certainly something that the taxpayers are interested in. Oftentimes we hear that complaint that they don't know well, what's the cost? What is it going to cost me? How long? And it's impossible for you to explain it to every single person in your city. As you know, we heard this evening, not everybody can make it to a council meeting. So that bill did pass, thankfully, and I think that, if anything, it's going to help build the partnership and the relationship between elected officials, whether it's, you know, local elected, water board, whoever, in their constituents. So I hope that you're happy with that bill passing. Moving on, I won't beat a dead horse, but SB 1, as you know, did pass, and that is the gas tax increase, which went into effect in November. That gas tax is in perpetuity, or at least until the group that's organizing the effort to get signatures to repeal it gets it on the ballot and the voters vote for or against that. And that is coming, and they're working very hard to do that. AB 1274 creates an additional $25 annual tax on vehicles that are 7 and 8 years old, which goes to funding energy efficient engines. I'm not really certain why we need to tax people to pay for someone else's energy efficient car. This is not a bill that I supported, but nonetheless that bill did pass and was signed by the governor. The third one there on that list would be SB 2, which is a Senate bill, and that is a $75 tax, or as they like to call it in Sacramento, fee, on every real estate document transaction that takes place. That includes death certificates, you know, things of that nature. $75 on each page. There is a cap associated with, so they can't charge you, you know, $2 billion every time you do a transaction. However, this is to go toward affordable housing. So, again, not something that I was able to support, but it was signed into law by the governor. Moving on to more happy news, let's move to the ugly, if you didn't think that was bad enough. AB 1448 will allow inmates who have served at least 25 years in prison and who are 60 years old to be eligible for early release, regardless of the crime that they committed, regardless of their behavior while incarcerated. Because they are 60 years old, they are now considered elderly. I take that as an offense, considering I'm getting so close to that age. But suddenly now 60 is elderly, and this was dubbed the Elderly Parole Program. That bill was signed by the governor and is now state law. SB 384 is the tiered sex offender registry. I think this is another one that local government officials certainly is going to find very interesting, because this will allow, right now, if you are in the sex offender registry list and on the Megan's Law website, everybody is really in the same category. When you click on the pin, you know, the person's name, it will show you a picture, where they were last located, the offense that they committed. It doesn't list names or anything like that. This bill tiers it so that there are some who have committed the most heinous of crimes who will always be on the list, and they would be in one category. There's a lower list of people who, you know, it could range from streaking through the park to, you know, something that perhaps they shouldn't be on the sex offender, you know, website for life. But then there's the middle part, which incorporates a lot of people for a lot of different crimes committed. That was the tier that I had the most problem with, which is why I couldn't support this bill. But just so you know and your residents know, the Megan's Law website does not list everyone that is a sex offender. And a lot of people don't know that. Current law, prior to this bill, made it so that immediate family members of a victim of sexual assault or molestation, those immediate family members are not on the Megan's Law website. So I know you look kind of surprised, and I was too when I learned this, and I did try to change that and was unsuccessful. But the theory is that if you have a 12-year-old girl whose stepfather molested her, and you know, a police report was filed, some sort of adjudication took place, that it would be unfair to the 12-year-old girl to have her stepfather listed on the website. What if one of her schoolmates looked at the website and then were taunting and teasing her? You know, that is the reason that I was given. I think more important to protect all of the other children out there who may end up being prey. I think that's more important, but again, nonetheless, it wasn't my law. I did try to change it. I wasn't successful. But just so you know that the tiered sex offender registry is only covering the people who are on the list. It certainly doesn't cover the people who have never been placed on the list due to the immediate family member allowance in there. So I will end with this tidbit of wonderful news. AB 424, also a bill which was signed into law, prohibits any school personnel from who has a CCW, a concealed carry permit, prohibits them from carrying a weapon onto school grounds, even if their local school superintendent says that they can. So, typically schools are gun-free zones. However, it is up to the jurisdiction, locally, and if the superintendent decides that that is something that he or she wishes to allow, they could do so up until this bill. So, we're down here in Southern California, we're very packed in very closely. It's a highly populated area. When you go to Northern California or even Central California, of course, people are much more spread out, and they have other issues to deal with in their schools, whether it's critters or bad guys. But this took the local control out of the hands of the school boards and the superintendents completely away. So every school in California now, I guess, will be a sitting duck. So.
Melissa, does that include the sheriff's resource officer too?
No.
Okay, so that's, okay.
But, not every school is going to
Yeah,
have.
no.
Right. So, with that, I don't mean to be a downer right before Christmas, but I have to be honest with you, and I have to come give you the briefing as it is. I did put some good bills in there, so it's not all bad news. But you deserve to know what's going on. Of course, this is not all the bills. We voted on over 2,000 bills this year. If you want me to come brief you on all of them, I will. But you better bring some donuts and coffee. But this is just kind of the ones that I thought most affected local government and that you might have interest in. So with that, I will entertain any questions or comments that you have. Otherwise, I'll get out of your hair.
How many bills did he actually sign, do you know?
I don't off the top of my head. I want to say it's a little under 2,000.
He signed 2,000?
That's actually low, Mayor Walker, I'm sorry to inform you, but in years past, there were easily 4,000 bills that churned through the legislature. I cannot for the life of me figure out how you could come up with 4,000 ways to regulate people's lives, but they do it.
Every year, huh?
Every year.
Every year.
Like
It's unbelievable. Okay. Anybody have any questions?
Oh, I'd just like to thank you for the job you're doing for us, for your Facebook page. You're totally honest, let everybody know what's going on. And you're somewhere all the time, all the time.
I am somewhere all the time.
Yes.
I'm almost late tonight. It popped up on my calendar and went, oh my gosh, I have to get there. So I try to
appreciate you.
Thank you. I try to post as much as I can. Sometimes when it's kind of, going crazy in there, I can't stop and do it. I run my own social media. I don't allow my staff to do that because it just keeps things separate and then it's mine and, no one can ask to see it. So I do it as fast as I can. But if you have questions or you hear something about legislation or you're kind of hearing a rumor, you all have my cell phone number. Please don't hesitate to contact me. That goes for the residents as well, although I'm not giving out my phone number tonight. But but if you have it, feel free to use it. But I do try to keep you updated via Facebook, Twitter, whenever I can. So.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
With that, Merry Christmas, y'all.
All right, Merry Christmas.